Okay, listen, so I normally hate disclaimers, but this video is kind of a mess. I have an outfit change, the background changes so many times, and also I just want to say if I mention your favorite book in my least favorite section, I'm so sorry. I still love you. Please still love me. Bye. Hi guys, it's Reagan, and this video is actually for class, but I'm really excited because it fits really well into my channel because it's about Goodreads. So since this video is actually like my final project for one of my classes, I'm gonna try and just jump right into it, but I did want to quickly thank you guys for 500 plus subscribers because I keep filming videos that just don't get edited. I've thanked you guys and Read with Cindy and Chanel Time so many times, but those videos have not seen the light of day yet, so I'm thanking you again. And since this one is for class and I have to edit it, then it'll actually reach you guys, so that's exciting. So anyways, this video is my road to reaching my Goodreads challenge. We all know Goodreads. It's that amazing website where every year you can set a reading challenge, and every year I never reach it. For the past few years I've been setting it to 70 books, and I think last year I read maybe 24, and the year before that maybe like 19 or something, maybe less than that. So I usually don't worry too much about it, but this year I actually started off really strong. I was keeping up with my goal. At the beginning of the year it kept saying you are right on track, and I was like, who is she? I'm currently behind schedule, but out of the 70 books that I want to read, I've read 57. And even though it's December 12th, this month is almost over, this year is almost over, I wanted to try and set some goals to see if I could actually reach 70 books this year. So before we talk about those goals and the books that I plan to read, I want to give a little recap over my reading this year. Obviously, how many, 70 minus 57, whatever that is, I have that many books that could end up becoming my favorite or my least favorite or whatever in between. I won't say this is set in stone, but I do want to give some shout outs to some books and some maybe not shout outs to some books. So let's just get into that. So the first section is going to be my favorite books. So all of these books made me cry. I thought about them extensively for a long period of time, and they are the books that I recommend to people now when they come to me for recommendations. So all three of these books have become not just 2020 favorites, but forever favorites, which is really lovely to have happen. So let's just get into them. Should we go in order? We should go in order. So the first book that I read this year where I was like, oh my goodness, this is my new life, is Carry On by Rainbow Rowell. So if you're familiar with Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell, Carry On features the same characters that Kath is really obsessed with and writes fan fiction about. So the insidious humdrum is going around making holes everywhere, and these holes are void of magic. So magic users are not able to use their magic there. And so Simon Snow is the worst chosen one to ever be chosen, but he's the one who people expect to defeat the humdrum. And along the way, his friends Penny and Baz and Agatha kind of help him along to figure out this journey that he's going through. And I think it's so difficult for me to tell the plot of this book because the reason I love this book so much is because of the characters. Specifically Baz. Baz is my favorite character. the part that I cried at in this book is very heavily focused around Baz. I just love him. So this book really holds a special place in my heart, and I'm really glad that I read it for the first time this year, which is wild because it's been out for a little while, but part of me is glad that I found it during this year where I really needed something to clutch onto for happiness. Next, literally right after I read Carry On, I read The Song of Achilles. I made a video over this book and it is one of my favorite videos ever. I think right now it's my most viewed video, and I feel like this book really deserves that. It deserves to be my most viewed video because it just hits so heavy. The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller is about Patroclus. So it has the story of the Iliad, right? But it's from Patroclus's point of view, from when he starts out really young and his dad literally disowns him, and then he goes to live with Achilles and his dad, and then yeah, we get to the war and all that. But again, the plot is probably not my favorite thing about this book, although it is really good. I mean, it's the Iliad. If you've read that, then you will know how this book ends. But even if you do know how it ends, you'll probably still sob, because the way Madeline Miller writes, her writing is very beautiful and kind of poetic. And I think I've learned this year that that's not necessarily my favorite type of writing, but the way she does it is really lovely to me, for lack of a better word. I really like it. And just the way she writes Patroclus, he becomes like your baby, you know? And so Patroclus deserves the world, and he didn't get it. Let's move on before I cry again. The last book that I have that is like my all-time favorite from this year is Monday's Not Coming by Tiffany D. Jackson. I read another book by Tiffany D. Jackson that will be in the next section of books, but literally after reading Monday's Not Coming and her other book that I read this year, Tiffany Jackson literally owns my soul. She could write anything and I will read it, and I won't even hesitate to buy it. I will pick it up immediately. That's how amazing her writing is. And Monday's Not Coming was my first introduction to her, and I'm really glad it was, because I just absolutely love this book. When I read this book, it was all I could think about. Not even kidding. All I could think about, all I could talk about, all I could tweet about, just everything to me. So this book is about Claudia, whose best friend Monday has gone missing, and no one cares. No one cares but Claudia. And so she is trying to figure out where her best friend has gone, and if she left her, if she needs help, like just what's going on, while also trying to become her own person without Monday, because she really relied on Monday for a lot, and now she's not here, so she has to kind of grow into her own being. And so it's kind of like a coming of age novel, kind of, but also a thriller and a mystery. It has a lot of elements to it, and the plot twist had me shook. It's so good. So it's a new day, I'm wearing different clothes, but let's just ignore that and get on to the next part of the video, which is the almost favorites. So the books in this section are very, very good, still highly recommended by me, but they just didn't hit that next level for me to call them a favorite of the year. I would probably reread them, but they just don't cross my mind as much as my favorites of the year did, and I didn't obsessively scour the internet for merch and memes for them. So yeah. So first up we have The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid, which is a book about Evelyn Hugo, who is an actress, and she's finally ready to tell her life story. Pretty much everyone involved in her story is dead except for her, so she finally feels like she can be honest about everything that happened in her life. And there's kind of a mystery aspect to it. It's not a mystery novel, but there is this mystery aspect to it because Evelyn Hugo specifically asked for Monique, who is, I believe she writes for a magazine type of thing. She specifically asked for Monique to tell her story. So you are kind of wondering the whole time, like, why Monique? Why would she choose Monique? So we do get little parts from Monique, but majority of the story is Evelyn telling about her life and ups and downs and the all arounds of it. And the way her life story is, it just makes you want to keep reading. It's really good. I do think about this one a lot, but mostly because someone very close to me is obsessed with this book. But I really am glad I read it, and I definitely would reread it. Then we have Felix Ever After by Kaysen Callender, and it is about Felix Love, who has ironically never been in love, and so he kind of wants to know what that's like. And he's also in an art school where he wants to kind of get his portfolio together, if I remember correctly. And while he's at this art school, he is outed and dead named by a mysterious person. So he creates a fake Instagram account in order to find out who did this to him. And he kind of goes through this journey of figuring out things about himself in terms of like relationships and whatnot. And it's a book that I feel is just really important and really needed, and we need more of books like this. I honestly, when I was reading this, I listened to it on audio. It's a very quick read if you're looking for something quick, because I almost read it in a whole day. But while I was reading it, I was like, this needs to be in a high school classroom. Like, when I get my high school class, this will be in the library for people to read it. Then we have Vicious by V.E. Schwab. V.E. Schwab, I love V. And so Vicious was so good. I was not disappointed. So this book is about Victor and Eli, who are college roommates, and they are trying to figure out the idea behind these people who are called extraordinaries. A lot of people don't even believe they exist, but Eli has decided to write his thesis over them, and he comes to the conclusion that to become one, you have to have not just a near-death experience, you literally have to die and be brought back to life. So they go through this and they become extraordinary, and this somehow leads Victor to prison, and when he gets out, he's like, I'm coming to get you, Eli. And so it follows them. It has a dual timeline of when they're in college and then 10 years later, and it is so good. It's really dark academia type if you're into that, and yeah, very enjoyable. I definitely recommend. And then we have Grown by Tiffany D. Jackson, which I already said Tiffany D. Jackson literally owns my soul, and she does. I will read anything by her at this point. Grown is about this girl named Enchanted who is 17 years old and she wants to become a singer. So she goes on this American Idol type of show, I believe, and she is discovered by this very famous singer whose name is Corey. He's 28 years old and he grooms the heck out of her. He is the worst. Reading about him made me very angry. This story, and Monday's not coming, so I'm assuming Tiffany D. Jackson just really likes to write heartbreaking stories. Both of them are just so sad. Grown is very sad because Enchanted doesn't even realize how bad her situation is until it gets almost to the worst point possible. And it's just so frustrating. It makes you so angry and so sad, but it's so good. Definitely something I would recommend, but maybe not if you're not in the right headspace to read something like that, because it's pretty heavy. I would definitely look up the trigger warnings for it. So the last section of books that I want to talk about are my never favorites. Pretty much just the least favorites of the books I've read this year. And these books, if you ever see me rereading them, call the police, because I'm in trouble. If you see me tweeting that I love them, I have been kidnapped. So keep that in mind. So I won't really go into detail on the synopses of these books, just because a lot of them I blocked it from my mind after I read them. So let's just go. So the first one is Maniac Magee by Jerry Spinelli. I was told that this book would make me cry and that I would just be so emotional over it and that it was so good. And I read this book. It did make me want to cry, but not for the reasons that people expected, I suppose. Maybe it was because of everything that went on this year, or maybe I misinterpreted it, but it just felt so all lives matter movement to me, and I just was not a fan. Yeah, don't want to even think about it anymore. Would not have it in any classroom of mine. Moving on. So ignore the background change, my camera died. But the next book that I wanted to talk about is I'm Thinking of Ending Things by Ian Reid. So this is one of those books where it literally made me feel like brain small, head empty. I can't even tell you what it's about. I have no idea. I listened to the audiobook. Maybe it would have been better if I read the physical book, but I don't know. I heard the movie is not the best either, but maybe I'll give that a try. Either way, you won't catch me rereading this. This is all I have to say about this, because I literally don't know what happened. Then we have The Sun Also Rises by Ernest Hemingway. I had to read this for class. This further cemented my, I want to say hatred, but we all know that's a really big word, but it further cemented my dislike for Hemingway. I was introduced to him in the 10th grade with The Old Man and the Sea, and I was like, no. And now I read The Sun Also Rises this past summer, and I was like, okay, maybe it'll be different this time. No, it wasn't different. It was just awful. It was about bullfighting, I think. I don't even know. It was boring, and then there was this whole page straight with where this man kept saying the N-word, and I was like, just not for me, love. Not for me at all. And then the last one, I'm actually really upset that I have to put it on this list because it was my most anticipated book for this year, and that's The King of Crows by Libba Bray. It's the last book in the Diviners series, which when I first read the Diviners I was obsessed, and then the next book, what is it called, Lair of Dreams, is the best book in the series. Just amazing. Before the Devil Breaks You, great book. And then we get The King of Crows, and it just it was such a disappointment. And I'm not gonna say I hated it, I just was very disappointed. It has a trope that I just really do not like. I guess it's kind of a spoiler to say it, but I'm gonna say it anyway. There was a death and then the character came back to life, which I hate. I hate that so much. If you're gonna kill off a character, let them stay dead. The series is a trilogy. It ends at Before the Devil Breaks You. It has a very open ending because it almost feels like there should have been another book after it. But yeah, there's only 3 books in that trilogy, and it ends however we want it to. If you liked it, I'm very happy for you. But it just was not for me. Okay, so now we get into the plan for reaching 70 books. It is currently December 15th. Will I make it with 16 days left in the month? I don't know, but this is what we're gonna do. So I'm currently in the middle of mini books. My first goal is to finish those books. So I think I'm 81% into the Poppy War, so I should be able to finish that soon, especially since finals are almost over, and this project right here is almost done. And yeah, I have another project, but Thursday I'll be done with everything and I can finish books. So then I'm in the middle of Circe, which I started literally back in like May, but it just wasn't for me. But I do still want to finish it, especially since I made it to the halfway point, I believe. So we're gonna finish that. I'm reading Fence, which is a graphic novel about fencing. It's really cute, really good so far. I don't even know why it's taking me so long to finish that, so I should be able to finish it pretty soon. And then I'm reading The Fury, for all the Vampire Diaries fans out there. The audiobooks for the Vampire Diaries books have all been pretty short so far, so I have about 3 hours left in The Fury, so I should be able to finish that really soon, especially since I read at 2 times speed now, moving on up in the world. I used to only be able to handle 1.5. So I'm hoping to finish those 4 books first, since I've already made some progress in them. Then I would like to read more of the Vampire Diaries books just because they're short, and then hopefully read Beach Read because Chanel said that it reads very quickly, so I hope I can read it fast. But the plan is more audiobooks, finish the books I'm reading already, and then finish maybe some short books that I have, or books that I'm really interested in, like Beach Read and The Only Good Indians. So let's get this done. So I really am hoping I can achieve this, especially after school is done this week. Let me know what you are planning to read for the end of this year. Let me know if you reached your Goodreads goal or if you're almost there like me. I hope we can all get there. And thank you so much for watching, especially if you watched this far. Thank you guys, and stay hydrated, stay safe, wear your mask, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!